As we continue our Breaking Down the Ballot coverage, up next is question 3, the most high-profile referendum on next week's ballot. It asks, do you want to create a new power company governed by an elected board to acquire and operate existing for-profit electricity transmission and distribution facilities in Maine? Sierra Whaley has more.
There's a lot of strong advocacy, both for and against question 3, and that's as it should be. That's a healthy part of our democratic process.
Question 3 asks Mainers if they want to replace Maine's 2 biggest utilities, CMP and Versant, with Pine Tree Power.
Question 3 gives Maine voters the opportunity to vote out the most hated utilities in the country, CMP and Versant.
In 2023, TV5 has reported on multiple increases in various electric rates, as well as frequent power outages.
Pine Tree Power, the power company we would get by voting yes on question 3, would deliver better reliability for our power, bring back local control to our grid, and bring savings on our power bills that Mainers desperately need.
However, opponents say the plan isn't clear on the exact cost or structure. BJ McAllister is the campaign manager for Maine Energy Progress, which opposes question 3.
There's questions on if it's constitutional. There's questions about how this new electric company would run because it doesn't include an operations plan.
Pine Tree Power says it has an independent analysis which shows Mainers will save $9.1 billion over a 30-year span, but opponents say it will bring more debt for Mainers.
This could cost anywhere between $9 to $13.5 billion. And the longer a period of time this acquisition takes, which Maine's public advocate says it could take 5 to 10 years in litigation, the more expensive this becomes.
Cleveland says it won't take that long.
When voters vote yes on question 3, we'll have the Pine Tree Power Company operating in 3 to 4 years. We'll elect a board of directors who will be responsible and accountable to us, Maine people, and not foreign shareholders, and we will acquire the utilities building on the tried and true method of consumer-owned utilities that are already saving Maine people money across the state.
According to Cleveland, Maine already has 10 consumer-owned utilities that represent 98 municipalities with delivery rates that are 52% less than CMP and Versant. McAllister says well-known political figures in both major parties are against this plan.
What we find is that people on both sides of the aisle, whether that be Governor Janet Mills or former Governor Paula Page, are encouraging voters to vote no because this is a risky proposal with no plan to lower electric rates or improve reliability.
Question 3 presents a rosy solution, but in reality, I just don't see how it'll improve our utilities or the services they provide. In fact, I fear it might just make things worse.
What we've seen in other states when measures like this have been moved forward, like in Long Island, people's rates increased by 50%, and the private grid operator that was hired to run the grid, just as Pine Tree Power proposes, was a foreign entity. So there's nothing in the Pine Tree Power initiative that ensures that this would be run by a Maine company.
TV5 spoke with Maine public advocate William Harwood, who has taken a neutral stance as his office couldn't determine if the proposal is a good one or bad one for Mainers.
We've got this short-term acquisition premium problem, which may have upward pressure on rates, but you have a long-term cost of capital benefit from question 3, which in the long term will have significant downward effect on rates. And that's where the experts trying to mix and match those two and make those assumptions.
Sierra Whaley, WABI TV5 News, Bangor.
And for more information on question 3, you can go to our website.